You didn't become empathetic because life was gentle with you. You became empathetic because you had to be. Long before you had language for boundaries, you learned something more subtle and more dangerous. You learned how to read people. You learned how to sense shifts in mood, detect emotional weather changes, anticipate disappointment, irritation, withdrawal. You learned how to soften yourself before someone else hardened, how to understand before being understood, how to explain before being accused. You learned that empathy could prevent consequences, so you practiced it constantly, quietly, until it stopped being a choice and became a reflex. You don't think, should I understand them? You think, of course I understand them. And for a long time, that worked. It kept situations from escalating. It kept relationships from breaking. It kept you from being targeted. But there is a truth almost no one talks about. The very empathy that once protected you is now the reason people cross you. You see it when someone disrespects you, and your first response isn't anger, clarity, or distance, it's interpretation. You immediately contextualize their behavior. You reach for their backstory. You reduce the impact of what they did by explaining why they did it. You don't ask why they felt entitled to treat you that way. You ask what pain must be driving them. And in doing so, you quietly remove yourself from the equation. This is the paradox at the center of your life. What once kept you safe is now teaching people that your boundaries are negotiable. This video is not about becoming cruel. It's not about becoming detached or heartless. It's about recognizing the moments where empathy stops being moral strength and starts being psychological self-betrayal. Because there are specific situations, predictable situations, where empathy does not elevate you, it exposes you. And if you've lived long enough as the understanding one, the patient one, the emotionally intelligent one, then you already feel the cost of this truth in your body. You are tired in a way sleep doesn't fix. You feel used in ways that don't look obvious from the outside. You carry resentment you don't feel allowed to express. And beneath all of it is a quiet, unsettling realization. Not everyone deserves access to your emotional depth. To understand why this pattern exists, we need to name it accurately. What you experience as empathy is often something else entirely. Psychology describes this as hyper-responsibility for others' emotional states. It forms early in environments where emotional safety is inconsistent, where anger, withdrawal, or unpredictability carried real consequences. When a child learns that other people's emotions are dangerous, the nervous system adapts. It becomes hyper-vigilant, always scanning, always anticipating, always adjusting. Empathy in this context is not compassion, it is threat management. This is closely tied to what trauma psychology calls the fawn response. Alongside fight, flight, and freeze, fawning is the strategy of appeasement. If I understand you, if I soften myself, if I meet your needs before mine, I will not be harmed. Over time, this rewires the brain. Your default mode network, the system responsible for self-referential thought, stops centering your internal needs and starts centering external emotional states. Your sense of self becomes relational instead of internal. You don't just feel emotions, you absorb them. You don't just listen, you accommodate. Carl Jung warned about this exact pattern when he described the loss of the self through over-identification with others. When empathy lacks containment, it doesn't create connection, it dissolves identity. Empathy without boundaries is not virtue, it is permeability, and permeability invites intrusion. Here is the emotional cost no one prepares you for. There is a grief that comes from being endlessly understanding. It's the grief of noticing that people feel safe unloading on you, but unsafe being accountable with you. The grief of realizing that your softness is not met with care, but with entitlement. The grief of knowing you could be sharp, direct, firm, but choosing restraint and paying for it anyway. You sacrifice authenticity for belonging repeatedly. You mute your anger because you can see where theirs comes from. You silence your disappointment because you understand their limitations. You delay your boundaries because you don't want to be unfair. And slowly, your inner world becomes crowded with explanations for other people's behavior, while your own needs remain unnamed. Friedrich Nietzsche warned that excessive compassion can become a form of self-destruction, not because compassion is wrong, but because unreciprocated compassion erodes the self. The fear driving this behavior is rarely acknowledged. It is the fear that firmness will cost you connection, that boundaries will be interpreted as rejection, that emotional withdrawal will make you unlovable. So even when you're disrespected, you stay curious. Even when you're taken for granted, you stay gentle. Even when you're exhausted, you stay available. This is not moral superiority. This is emotional overextension. And the most painful part is this: you can be surrounded by people and still feel profoundly alone, because being understood is not the same as being met. This pattern does not remain abstract. It becomes behavioral, predictable, visible. In relationships, you might find yourself with partners who feel deeply seen by you, but struggle to see you in return. People who open up easily but resist responsibility. People who rely on your empathy but feel threatened by your boundaries. In work environments, you become indispensable but invisible. You take on emotional labor no one assigned you. You smooth tensions, you anticipate problems, and then you watch others receive credit while you carry the weight. Internally, you experience a constant push-pull, a desire to withdraw, paired with guilt for even wanting space. Resentment followed immediately by self-justification, anger that collapses into self-doubt. You might tell yourself this is just who you are. It isn't. These are coping strategies, not personality traits. You were trained to survive by being emotionally accessible. Unlearning begins with witnessing, not self-attack. Witness the moment empathy rises automatically. Witness the impulse to explain instead of enforce. Witness the discomfort that appears when you consider withholding emotional access. Do not shame yourself for this, but do not romanticize it either. Calling it kindness does not make it healthy. The crucial shift is this: empathy is not a moral obligation. It is a relational privilege. It must be earned through reciprocity. Healing does not require becoming colder. It requires becoming selective. Inner child reparenting teaches a foundational truth. You are allowed to protect yourself without justifying yourself. You are allowed to disappoint people who benefit from your overextension. Shadow work reveals something uncomfortable but liberating. There is power in restraint. There is dignity in emotional privacy. There is strength in not explaining yourself to people who have already shown you who they are. Choosing softness is healing only when it is chosen, not compulsive. A regulated nervous system knows when to stay open and when to close the gate. Not every wound deserves your understanding. Not every story deserves your emotional labor. Not every conflict deserves your softness. The philosopher Epictetus said that we suffer not from events, but from our judgments about them. And one of the most damaging judgments you can carry is the belief that you must always be emotionally available to be worthy. You do not need to be fixed. You need to be contained, because the goal is not to feel less. The goal is to feel on your terms. And when you stop offering empathy as a shield, something surprising happens. Respect appears where over-understanding once stood. Clarity replaces resentment. Peace replaces exhaustion. That is not cruelty. That is integration. If this revealed something you've been carrying quietly, share it with someone who confuses empathy with obligation. And subscribe not to become harder, but to become whole.